This story begins with a woman delicately manipulating a puppet while receiving very precise instructions from someone else, her mother. Ella is a stop-motion animator working under the direction of Suzanne, a legendary filmmaker in the medium. However, their relationship is far from normal. Suzanne treats her daughter with coldness and extreme demands, calling her puppet, as if she were just another one of her characters. During a break, as they eat together, Ella tries to pitch some ideas for the film, but her mother barely looks at her and doesn't respond, completely ignoring her. Later, Ella meets up at a bar with her boyfriend, Tom, and his sister, Polly. Polly shows her some commercial work she's done using stop motion and offers the possibility of collaborating on commercials in the future, though Ella doesn't seem very interested. That night, Ella wakes Tom up because she needs to leave before her mother gets up. Although he tries to convince her to stay a little longer, she insists she has to work. On the way, Tom asks when the film will be finished. Ella clarifies that it's not her movie, but her mother's, acknowledging that Suzanne is a legend, but her hands are getting worse due to arthritis. She explains that she promised to help finish this final film. Her mother is the brain, and she provides the hands. That's their dynamic. Tom asks if she wouldn't want to make her own film or find her own artistic voice, but Ella replies that she doesn't have a voice of her own. When Ella gets home, her mother wakes her by calling her puppet and asking if she is tired or in a bad mood, but Ella says she's fine. Suzanne confesses that all she wants is to finish this movie before she dies and asks if she is really such a burden. She then begins giving very specific instructions, demanding Ella move the puppet's head 2 millimeters to the left and take the shot. Ella struggles to calculate with such precision, and Suzanne loses patience, screaming instructions and ordering her not to move a muscle. Just then, the power goes out. Ella searches for her mother in the dark using her phone light until she finds her on the floor, groaning in pain. Suzanne has suffered a stroke and ends up in the hospital. The doctors explain to Ella that her mother is in a coma due to a stroke, noting her prior history and arthritis. Tom offers to let Ella stay at his place for as long as she needs, telling her she shouldn't go back to a place full of bad memories. But she replies that she needs to finish the film. One night, after showering at Tom's, Ella walks into the living room and hallucinates seeing her mother lying on the floor. However, Suzanne's body transforms into a pile of raw meat, looking like a stop-motion character made of scraps. The next day, Tom takes her to a building where he rents a space and shows her an apartment she can use as a studio to finish the movie while her mother recovers. He offers to stay the night with her, but Ella rejects the idea, saying it would distract her. Tom agrees and promises to return in the evening with dinner. While carrying her equipment up the stairs, Ella encounters a mysterious little girl playing and blocking her path, but she asks to get by and continues on. Once in the apartment, Ella sets up the stage and puppets to work, but she can't concentrate because she hears someone singing in the hallways. When she goes out to investigate, she finds the girl again, who follows her into the apartment, full of curiosity about what she is doing. The girl tries to touch the Cyclops, but Ella warns her that it is a very delicate object and cannot be handled like that. She explains that inside the doll there is an armature, like a skeleton, and she has to move its parts little by little to take the photos. The girl quickly understands that putting all those photos together creates the illusion of movement and comments that it looks like cartoons. Ella tells her the process takes a long time, but she enjoys it and is good at it. She then shows the girl part of the film and explains that the story is about a Cyclops who traded one of his eyes with the gods to see his destiny, only to end up seeing his own death. The girl is unimpressed and says it seems boring, so Ella asks how she would improve it. The girl replies that she would make a completely new story, one she already has in mind, about a girl who is scared and lost in the woods because someone is coming for her. Ella asks who is coming, but the girl gets distracted by the studio materials and discovers the embalmer's wax Ella uses to fix the puppets' faces. The girl suggests she should definitely make a character using that material. Tom arrives later and insists Ella needs a break and will feel better after eating, but she tells him she's not hungry because she only cares about her work. The next day, Ella receives an unexpected visitor. It's Polly, Tom's sister, who says she heard about her mother and wanted to check on her. Ella invites her in and shows her what she's working on. Polly mentions that she gets her best ideas when she's high and says Ella's work could be useful for a project they are doing, inviting her to a talk about commercials. But Ella doesn't seem enthusiastic about the idea. When Polly leaves, the little girl appears and enters the apartment. Ella tells her she is making the movie with her idea about the girl in the woods, but when she shows her the footage, the girl isn't convinced and says the character doesn't look real. Ella gets frustrated and replies that it's not supposed to look real, but the girl goes into the kitchen, takes out a piece of raw meat, and suggests she make the new girl with that. She tells Ella that even though it's dead meat, Ella can bring it to life, and promises that if she does, she'll tell her what happens next in the story. Ella agrees and begins covering the armature with raw meat, while the girl narrates that the character runs through the woods, finds a house, and hides there, but a man comes looking for her for 3 nights. When they finish creating the new girl, Ella asks what they should call the man chasing her. The girl takes an ashtray, pours the ashes over the puppet, and christens him the Ashman, the man no one wants to find. That night, while sleeping, Ella hears someone banging on her door 3 times, just like in a specific moment of her movie. When she goes to check, she discovers it's the girl wearing a mask. The girl says she found something she wants to show her and leads her outside the building, into the trees, where a dead fox lies on the ground. The girl explains that she can use the bones as an armature, wrap them in skin, and give the character teeth and a tongue, because if she is going to make the Ashman, she needs to make him with something that is truly dead. Ella refuses flat out. Using a bit of leftover meat is one thing, but this is something completely different. The girl insists and threatens not to tell her the rest of the story if she doesn't agree, reminding her that the movie takes place over 3 nights, and she still doesn't know what happens after the first. Ella replies that it is her movie, but the girl asks defiantly if it really is, daring her to continue alone if she can, and walks away annoyed, leaving Ella there in the woods. The next day, Ella tries to invent something to continue the story, but has no ideas. She visits her mother in the hospital, and, although Suzanne is unconscious, Ella talks to her. She confesses that she couldn't finish her movie and started one of her own, but that in reality, it wasn't hers either. It was someone else's story, again. She tells her she simply doesn't have it in her, that without someone telling her what to do, she can't create anything. Later, Ella goes to a party where she runs into Polly and asks if she can give her some of that stuff she mentioned for getting her best ideas. Polly hands her a small bag, and Ella goes into the bathroom to take it. When she comes out, she experiences an intense hallucinogenic trip where everything around her distorts. She sees a man hit another with a bottle, and blood starts gushing from his forehead. Ella touches the man's wound while the little girl appears behind her. Ella then leaves the party and walks to the woods, where she meets the girl again by the fox's body. This time, Ella tells her she understands now and is going to use the fox. She takes the carcass to the apartment, and the girl hands her a box cutter to open it up. Ella complies and begins cutting, working to create the new Ashman with the skin and bones of the dead animal. As she works, the girl records her own voice on a tape recorder. Ella comments that talking to yourself is the first sign of madness, to which the girl replies, "Look who's talking." The girl explains that the Ashman comes for 3 nights. On the first night, he sees her. On the second night, he touches her. Ella begins to animate the scenes where the girl is hiding in the house, and the Ashman approaches to watch her through the window. But then, someone rings the doorbell of the apartment. Ella tries to ignore it, but since they ring several times, she loses concentration and decides to check who it is. When she steps out into the hallway and looks toward the stairs, she sees the Ashman, the man of ash, slowly coming up toward her. Terrified, Ella runs back into the apartment and locks the door. Seconds later, the man starts pounding on the door violently, so Ella waits in terror for him to leave. When the knocking stops, she approaches to look through the peephole, but the Ashman places his bloody eye right against it, and Ella faints. Tom wakes Ella up, and she is completely confused. He thinks she got high the night before, but she shows him that she didn't actually take any of what Polly gave her. Ella tells him that she saw the Ashman in person, that he came and looked at her through the door, but Tom points out that the exact same thing happens in her movie, that she animated it herself. On the laptop, the exact same scene plays out. The monster knocks on the door 3 times, leaves, and when the girl peeks out, he reappears and jump scares her. Ella doesn't know what to believe and begs Tom to get her out of there. At Tom's place, Ella takes a shower and suddenly feels like her skin is made of wax. During the night, she wakes up to see the doll from her movie, the girl made of meat, come through the bedroom door, climb onto the bed, approach her leg, and slice open a wound. Ella wakes up with a start. It was only a nightmare. The next morning, they have breakfast at a diner, and Tom asks how she slept. She lies and says she slept well. He tries to make her laugh and suggests doing something fun over the weekend, but Ella is distracted, staring at the little girl sitting at another table across from her. Ella goes to the restroom, and the girl follows her to ask if she wants to hear the rest of the story. Ella tells her to leave her alone, saying she changed her mind and doesn't want to make the movie anymore. The girl doesn't care and tells her that on the first night, he sees her, and on the second night, he touches her. Later, Ella confesses to Tom that she wants to go back and finish the movie because she can't stop thinking about it and doesn't know what else to do with her life. Tom offers to let her work with him to get her mind off things, but Ella asks disdainfully if he means some administrative office job. Finally, she agrees to go to the studio where Polly works to see if she can collaborate on something. Polly introduces her to the commercial director, a man named Brett, who takes her into a room and explains that he needs her to prep 100 eyes for the next day's shoot. Ella confesses she thought she would be working as an animator, but neither Brett nor Polly knows what to say. The director explains that the eyes have to be perfectly round and measure exactly 3 millimeters, and all she has to do is roll them. He mentions that he watched her mother's films in college, and that it must have been incredible growing up in such an artistic environment. Ella finishes making the eyes and goes to find Brett, who is talking to Polly next to a small filming set. Ella looks around and discovers that they are using images of the meat girl from her movie as reference for the commercial. She gets upset and confronts Polly for stealing her idea. Polly explains that they are only using the images as a reference and that she offered her the job, so she shouldn't be so sensitive. But Ella gets even more furious, grabs the commercial puppet, and starts destroying everything until Brett stops her and, obviously, fires her. Afterward, Ella visits her mother at the hospital. Although Suzanne should be in a coma, she seems to wake up and speaks to her. She tells her that stop motion is a wonderful medium because you can give life to things that are dead. Ella asks what happens when those things take on a life of their own. Suzanne asks if she is afraid, and Ella confesses she is afraid of what will happen if she continues, but also afraid of what will happen if she doesn't. Suzanne calls her a poor puppet and tells her she has a very morbid imagination, to which Ella replies that she must have inherited it from her. But her mother clarifies that the difference is that she can control it, while Ella cannot. Ella defends herself, saying she is living her own life now and it's her turn. But Suzanne shows no mercy, telling her she can't control anything, that she is a puppet tangled in her own strings, and if she isn't the one pulling them, someone else will. She reminds her that when puppets finish their performance, they get put away in a box. Ella returns to the apartment to work on her movie, and the little girl repeats that now it is the second night and Ashman is coming back to touch the girl. But Ella disagrees and wants to change the story so the woman escapes and the man doesn't touch her. The girl says she can't change it. He comes for 3 nights. On the first, he sees her. On the second, he touches her. That's how it works. But Ella gets angry and screams that she can change it because it is her movie. She starts working, and just as she is about to film the part where the girl escapes, the whole place starts to shake. Ella doesn't understand what is happening until a life-sized Ashman steps out from inside the set and walks toward her. When she tries to run, her legs turn into wax and she falls to the floor, transforming completely into a doll. She manages to escape the monster by crawling through a hole in the wall that leads to a room covered in golden fabric, but Ashman's hand grabs her and Ella turns back into a human. The monster pulls a black ball out of its mouth and force-feeds it to her. Ella writhes in pain on the floor as the girl approaches to say something, and then she wakes up in a hospital bed. A nurse explains that they found her wandering the streets with a cut on her leg, and that they are going to keep her under observation overnight. Tom arrives at the hospital and sits next to Ella, worried about what happened. Ella tells him she didn't do this on purpose, but Tom wants to help her and suggests that once she recovers, they could work together. She could even film his music videos since he makes music too. Ella laughs at him, telling him he doesn't make music. He just puts on a suit and goes to a boring, ordinary job. Tom gets angry and snaps back that she isn't some artistic genius either, that she animates steaks and dead foxes, and nobody is interested in watching those horrible animations. Tom tells her he's fed up with all of this and that he is going to the apartment to destroy everything and throw out what she has filmed to end this situation once and for all. Ella stops him and asks him to let her do it, acknowledging that he is right, and she knows this needs to stop because she is only hurting herself. But since she started it, she needs to be the one to finish it. Tom accepts, but on the condition that they do it together and that he will drive her there in the morning to make sure she actually does it. Later, a doctor takes Ella to her mother's room to break the news that Suzanne has died. Ella approaches the body, holds her hand, and then the little girl appears in the room to ask if they can go now. Ella breaks down the apartment door with a fire extinguisher and enters with the girl to set everything up and finish the movie. The girl looks at the Ashman puppet and comments that the fox skin has dried out and doesn't work. They need to find something better, something fresher. Ella sits down and asks the girl to come closer, saying she wants to get a good look at her. When the girl sits beside her, Ella grabs her by the throat and begins to strangle her with all her might until she seems to break her neck. Ella thinks she is finally done with everything, but suddenly the girl appears behind her, completely unharmed, and asks if she got that out of her system. Ella starts crying out of frustration, and the girl calms her, assuring her that it's almost over. Ella asks what will happen on the third night, what Ashman does, but the girl just replies that it will be worth the wait and that it will be something only she could have done because great artists always put a part of themselves into their work. The girl uncovers the wound on Ella's leg and hands her pieces of the armature. Ella begins to rip out her stitches one by one, dying of pain, to make the wound bleed again. But at that moment, Tom and Polly enter the room and can't believe what they are witnessing. Ella screams at them to leave, but Polly approaches to try and calm her down. Ella rips a piece of flesh from her own leg, and both Polly and Tom throw themselves on her to stop her and try to take her to a hospital. Ella is about to lose consciousness when she hears the girl screaming that they are ruining everything. When they reach the stairs, Ella kicks Polly in the face and pushes Tom, who goes tumbling down the steps. Polly tries to escape, but Ella jumps on her and begins beating her in the head with her camera tripod until she kills her. Then she covers her leg wound and notices Tom is waking up. She walks over to him, and Tom asks her to help him, but Ella just covers his nose and mouth until Tom dies from lack of air. Ella drags Tom and Polly's bodies into the apartment, and the girl tells her this is much better than she had planned. Ella takes the box cutter and begins cutting the skin off the bodies to create new puppets for her movie. She finishes assembling an Ashman and a new girl, both much larger than the previous ones, made from the flesh and skin of the people she just killed. The two puppets come to life and start moving in front of Ella and the girl. But suddenly, Ashman ignores the girl puppet and turns around, walking directly toward them. The little girl gets scared and comments that this isn't part of the story. Ella runs and hides in a closet, but Ashman follows her and knocks on the door 3 times until he finally enters. The monster stands there watching her while the black ball Ella swallowed scenes earlier begins to move inside her. Ella grabs her own face and starts tearing it off because it is now made of wax. She hands pieces of her face to the monster and he eats them. In the final scene, Ella walks through a forest and enters a cabin identical to the one she built to film her movie. Inside, the little girl is sitting in front of a laptop watching a video. When Ella leans in to look at the screen, she discovers the video shows the real Ella dying on the floor of the apartment, filming herself as she bleeds to death. The girl tells her she loved how the movie turned out. Ella looks to the side and sees a huge trunk lined with golden fabric inside, just like the room where she was trapped during her hallucination. Without thinking too much about it, Ella opens the trunk, climbs inside, and closes it very slowly from within, putting herself away like just another puppet that has finished its performance. And just like that, the movie ends.